Should we dance? So, dear Simon Peter, you probably know him by reputation. He is a man of action. He's the one that always gets the press in Scripture. If there was a situation where there were 4 people involved and Peter was one of them, you can bet Peter is the one whose name is going to now appear in Scripture. He's the one who jumps in, opens his mouth, sometimes sticks his foot in it, sometimes he says the right thing, sometimes he says the wrong thing, sometimes he's just plain impulsive, but he's the one that you can count on to be right out front, saying something or doing something. He's a man of action, over and over and over again in Scripture. And because of that, he's the one that gets the press. Now, I'm going to take you back quite a few years. You remember when the Bills went to the Super Bowl? I'm talking about sports. I know Pastor Mary Ellen can never believe it when I have something to say about sports. But I do remember those years, okay? I do remember them. They went to how many Super Bowls? You betcha. And what's the big name you remember out of those Super Bowls? Okay, we got a bunch of different names. Not fair. I thought you'd all remember Jim Kelly. Now, last night somebody said Frank Reich, wide right, but which is also true. Oh, Scott Norwood. This is why I don't use sports very often. Scott Norwood. Sorry. Okay. Frank Reich led the biggest comeback in football. Okay. Okay, enough sports stuff. But Jim Kelly, thank you for reminding me. Jim Kelly is the one whose name is always out there. Now, there was a whole team out there that took him to the Super Bowl. But the name that always gets mentioned is Jim Kelly, even to this day. Peter's just like that. He's kind of the one who's always up front, always the one that gets turned to if you want an answer for something. If Jesus asked a question, Peter was there going, Actually, he didn't bother with the hand, usually. He just opened his mouth and, and spoke. Now, you remember just a few weeks ago, we read in Scripture about an incident where dear Peter did one of his man of action things. Jesus was at the Last Supper, and he said, one of you will betray me. But then also, Peter responded, I'd go to the death for you, Jesus. And Jesus turns to him then and says, Peter, before the cock crows, you're going to deny me 3 times. Oh, no, I would never do that. Guess what? He did. He's the only one, remember, dear Peter, he's the one that gets to go, is the only one that goes into the courtyard when Jesus is arrested. Everybody else kind of runs away. So here's that man of action again, out front, in the middle of things, this time in enemy territory. And 3 times he is asked, you're one of the followers, aren't you? Exactly what he said. Exactly what he said. 3 times he says, not me. And guess what? The rooster crows, and he realizes what he's done. Now that's important background for today's text from the end of John. How many times does Jesus now turn to Peter and say, do you love me? You got it. 3 times. The same number of times that Peter denied knowing Jesus. All of a sudden, the sin of that denial is being given the opportunity to reverse itself. 3 times he says, I don't know him. 3 times Jesus says, do you love me? And Peter has to answer, Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And what does Jesus then say? 3 times. Feed my sheep. Now, Jerry, you did a great job reading that text. You gave it a little expression because I think that this is probably a much more demonstrative text than most readers read it. If you got asked 3 times, do you love me? By the 3rd time, you'd probably be going, yeah, you know I love you. Right? You'd be exasperated. Okay? We don't often read it that way. I want you to watch this next video. Go.
Grace is God's unmerited favor for us, His crazy love. And the truth is, many times we struggle understanding it. If you find yourself struggling to understand God's grace, don't beat yourself up. Even the disciples struggled with understanding grace.
Jesus, is that you? You're alive. I can't believe you're alive. Okay, I was in the boat and I wasn't catching any fish, okay? But I heard this voice and the voice said, cast your net to the other side. And so I'm thinking, I'm a fisherman. I know what I'm doing, but I'm not catching any fish, you know? And so I throw that net over there and then a gaggle of fish pop into that net and I'm going, this is a total miracle. Who could have done that? I need to know who told me to throw the net to the other side. And boom, I look up and I mean, there is you. You're looking at me on the seashore going, it is I, the Lord, and you're alive. I can't believe you're alive. This is awesome. Andrew, get out of the boat. Come on.
Peter.
Yeah.
Do you love me?
Yes, I love you. I love you. You're alive. This is so great.
Good, then feed my sheep.
Andrew, get out of the boat. Come on, man. It's him.
Peter.
Yeah.
Do you love me?
I love you, yes. And I'm so sorry about that rooster clucking. I had no idea what that meant, but I do now. I'm better for it, all right? Okay?
Then feed my sheep.
Andrew, I'm smiling, but I'm serious. Come on, get out of the boat. It's him.
Peter.
Yeah.
Do you love me?
Jesus, mere words cannot describe the passion that I have for you. I love you. You know everything. I love you.
Good. Good. Then feed my sheep.
I didn't even know you had livestock. That is so like you, though. There's something new about you all the time. That's what I love about you.
Peter.
Yeah.
Do you remember the morning the ladies went to the tomb?
Yeah. We're all in the upper room trying to figure out what to do next, you know, because we thought you were dead. You know, you were dead, you know, and we're trying to figure all that out, you know. And Mary comes running up, and Mary's like saying, beehive, beehive, beehive. And I'm thinking, I'm allergic to bees. Like, keep them out, you know what I'm saying? But as she kept getting closer, I heard her correctly. She was saying, he's alive, he's alive, he's alive. And we're going, who's alive, who's alive? And she said, she was at the tomb, and the tomb was empty, and she said that there was an angel there, and the angel said, go tell the disciples and Peter that everything is okay, he is risen. And so, me and John, we hightailed it down there, and if John says he beat me, he's totally lying, all right? I beat him, FYI, all right, you know? And we get down there, and I'm looking in that tomb, and it is empty. There's nothing in there, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, what does this mean? What does this mean? And John is right there. John is so good with words. He should write a book. He is so good with words. And John said, don't you get it, Peter? This is everything Jesus said he was going to do, and you did it, and it's done. Let's go. This is so great.
Wait, the angel said what?
Go tell the disciples and Peter that everything is okay. He is risen. You've risen. Let's go.
He said what?
Go tell the disciples and Peter. Go tell the disciples and Peter. You said my name. Why did you say my name?
Peter, that's grace.
No, I don't deserve that, because that night people kept coming up to me asking me if I belonged to you, if I was with you, and I kept denying you left and right, all right? No, it'll take me my whole life to make up for what I did. It was unforgivable for what I did.
No. What I did on the cross was meant to take what is unforgivable and make it forgivable. That's my grace. It's not about you. It's always about me. That's grace, Peter.
It's not about you. It's always about Jesus. Peter had to learn that lesson. It's not about you. It's always about Jesus. Peter could do nothing to turn that 3-time denial around, could he? He couldn't erase that. He couldn't take it back. And he figured he was going to have to spend a lifetime atoning for that sin. Well, guess what? It's not about Peter. It is about Jesus. and what he did on the cross. And so 3 times Jesus says to Peter, do you love me? Well, yeah, you know I love you. Then feed my sheep. You see, when you get grace, then you have a job to do. That's exactly what Jesus was saying. All of us need purpose in life, don't we? If we don't have purpose in life, we just flounder. As I was coming into church yesterday afternoon, I happened to be listening to the radio. I have no clue what was on. I don't know what station it was or anything else. But on that station, it was like a talk show kind of thing. And this guy had called in, and he was explaining that he was in a job that he didn't like and was going nowhere. And his life was completely dull and routine. He described his work as being useless. He took more yogurt breaks. I don't know what that meant, but he took more yogurt breaks than he did work. Every day he went to work, though, and faithfully did what he was supposed to do, but found no joy or meaning in it. He went home, he had dinner, he played video games, he drank, he went to bed, and the next morning repeated. Day after day after day. And I wanted to call in and say, you know what you need? There's a little bit of grace. Because when you understand it's not about you, it is about what Jesus did for you, suddenly, Jesus' words, feed my sheep, give you purpose and meaning in life. Those words, my friend, are not just spoken to Peter. They are spoken to us as well. Feed my sheep. That's our purpose in life. It's a good work that all of us need to be doing in whatever we do for a living. Not just in your occupations, but in your lives. In your work as a spouse, in your work as a child, in your work as a student, in your work as a neighbor, in your work in computers, in your work in a hospital, in your work at home, whatever you do, wherever you are, you have purpose given to you by Jesus. And that purpose is, feed my sheep. What does that mean? That means, again, it's always about Jesus, isn't it? So that good work of feeding sheep is lifting up, building up, giving value to, and caring for all those sheep that belong to Jesus. Every day, in whatever you do. That was Martin Luther's understanding of what vocation was. Vocation isn't occupation. It is the work of Christ given to you to do in your daily life through what you already do. Caring for others, near and far, because Christ cared for you. Peter was that man of action, wasn't he? Part of what we see at the end of the Gospel of John is Jesus calling all of us to be people of action. Do you love me? Yeah, Lord, you know I love you. Then here's your purpose. Here's the good work I call you to do. Feed my sheep. You are forgiven, grace-filled people of God. So here's your marching orders. Feed my sheep. Wherever you are, in whatever you do. Amen.